Caleb Wilson intends to be legendary at North Carolina, and at a place where you find legends around every corner, that's going to require an otherworldly freshman campaign.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, September 19th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you for making us your first listener watch to get your weekend started the right way. This episode is brought to you by Mazda, who, like our Tar Heel players, they sweat every detail. Because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward moment. Mazda, move and be moved. I want to welcome in all the everydayers who are here, our great Locked On Tar Heels Discord member, and of course, all the Locked On Tar Heels insiders as well. Another person I want to welcome in is our good buddy, Mr. Anthony Pagnotta. We've now had both Heel Blog dudes on this week. Had Marlo earlier in the week talking some hoops, and now Pagnotta. We're going to talk a little more hoops. We'll get ready for the football game on Saturday. That'll wrap up the non-conference schedule. So we're going to talk Caleb Wilson's intro video that dropped on Thursday, Seth Trimble's press conference from this week, and then we'll look at what Carolina needs to accomplish in this final game ahead of ACC play. What's been the most surprising thing that's happened so far? We'll make predictions. We'll have our weekend whip around and more. Gonna be absolutely great. Also, today we have a second episode that has dropped. It's a crossover episode with Locked On UCF host Mike Gittins, and so make sure you check that out as well. All right, Pags, great to be together, man. Hard to believe that we're already here at the end of non-conference play in football, but a quick just basketball insert here as we get going. Caleb Wilson, this dude, I love his personality, Pags, so much. And one of the things that happened in this video is he was asked about why he's wearing the number 8. And he basically, or what he thinks about when he comes into the Smith Center. And he said, I think about Michael Jordan, and I look up in the rafters and I see all those jerseys and I think, man, I got to be up there one day. And then he's asked why he chose number 8. And he said, quote, I chose number 8 because not a lot of people have worn it here, and I want to be legendary. So I was like, I got to choose something that no one else has worn so that whenever it's in the rafters, it's alone. Anthony Pagnotta, is that misplaced freshman hopefulness, or can Caleb Wilson legitimately be legendary?
Oh, I think he can legitimately be legendary. I've told you, a few times when we've talked about him before, that I love everything about his game. I love the explosiveness that he brings. I love his back to the basket game. I think he's a, improving shooter. And I think one of the things that you really like about him is what he brings on the defensive end of the floor. And there are room for those types of guys at Carolina, especially, with what we've lost the last couple of years, with Leaky Black no longer being on the team, some of the better defenders for Carolina no longer with the team. They're looking for guys that shine on that end of the floor. And he can guard anywhere from the 4, maybe even the 5. I think we'd really have to see whether or not he can hold his own against those guys, anywhere to about the 2. And that's what I really like about his game. There's so much that just jumps out to me. And the clips that keep coming out of practice show you everything that you need to see about him, is that he's looking the part. So I look, we've seen guys, recently that have come in here and have probably been thinking the same thing, that I can put my name up there, and they haven't necessarily lived up to that. This feels like a guy that just is a little bit different because of the mindset that he's taking to it and what we're already seeing from him in some of these camps.
I love that you said mindset, Pagnotta. That's a great point, because the skill is there, but this dude, Energizer Bunny, just never ever stops. And I think his ability to guard the 5 is going to depend on whether he's 6'7", like he said in his video, or whether he's 6'10", as he's listed on the roster. I think he's probably leaning into that 6'7" meme there with that whole thing. Here's the other thing, Pagnotta, about Wilson that's always so interesting to me. From videos when he's just hanging out and around people, he's fun and goofy and just jovial, effervescent, whatever adjective you want to use to describe him. But then on the floor, man, he looks to be a killer. And he talked about that in the video. He said, I like to play around a lot, but I have kind of an off and an on switch. When I play basketball, I'm pretty serious, but off the court, I'm not serious at all, he said. I'm pretty approachable. If you want a picture, just ask for one. Pagnotta, when you hear a player talking about that kind of dual nature, would you rather them be the same guy always, or do you like that flip switching capability? Like, is this a positive, a negative, or indifferent to you?
I mean, I guess it's probably indifferent. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I guess maybe you could say it's a positive because he's a guy that really is going to be able to market himself very well. He's going to be someone that's going to be very approachable when it comes to NIL opportunities and everything like that. And from a fan's perspective, somebody that, kind of borders on that being, what we do, podcast and, the blog and everything like that. I mean, yeah, it's really nice to hear a guy that's like, look, man, I'm approachable. I want you to come up and ask me for pictures, because there have been some teams in the past, and I won't name specific ones, but it feels like when they used to be at football games and stuff like that, they did not necessarily want you coming up and asking for pictures and stuff. They seem to be guys that were like, look, I'm an athlete. I need to keep my mindset, everything like that. So I like the personality that he's able to have behind it. It is notable that he said all you got to do is ask for a picture. That may have stemmed off of me taking a picture of him while he was waiting at the Chase Rice concert with the rest of us in the season opener for TCU. But I was just doing the paparazzi thing. All right, man. I didn't want to, necessarily walk up. So, but yeah, I really like that about him. I think he is going to be a guy that just has that switch where, on the court, once you get in between those lines, he's a completely different player. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of success for him.
Let's switch and talk about Seth Trimble a little bit, because we had his press conference this week. Last week, we had Kyan Evans and Henri Veesaar. This week, Seth. R.L. Bynum, our guy from, I almost said Tar Heel Times, Tar Heel Tribune, excuse me, had asked Seth, and I'm so glad he was just direct with him about this, just about the differences in his numbers. And I mean, it's stark differences. 3-point shooting is a great example between pre and post concussion Seth last year. Anthony, I love that Seth was honest about it. He was like, yeah, dude, I was inconsistent. No bones about it. Post injury, I was inconsistent. I was maybe fighting too hard to get back, and it was just throwing stuff off. And so if we can erase that from our minds and remember who he was last season prior to that, do you expect, as of right now, the pre-concussion Seth is what we expect to see this year?
Yeah, I would say that's the guy that I'm expecting to see, because he's in a role where he's going to be expected to handle more of the scoring. He's going to be, the leader for this team. And I think that's kind of what you saw from him last year. You go back, and I think one of the more important things that happened to him and what allowed him to have so much success early in the season was, remember that RJ Davis did not play in the exhibition against Memphis.
That's right.
And so he ends up having to be the guy that, okay, I've got to step up my scoring prowess here. I've got to show some of that in this matchup if Carolina is going to win. And he was the best scorer on the team in that game. I mean, he hit just about everything that he looked at. And then you saw early in the season, it carried over into some of his 3-point shooting. He really looked like a guy that Carolina could trust. And then, yeah, when he comes back from the concussion, which, I mean, those are tough to come back from. I mean, we've seen guys, it depends on the sport. It takes a year to get over that, maybe even longer. It really just depends. For him, I think maybe it took him a little bit of time to get over that. He was never really comfortable with, what he was doing playing. And so maybe he took the time this offseason and now has gotten that all cleared away. And I think you're going to see a guy. I mean, I've said it. With this team, I don't know who the leading scorer is going to be for this team. But I really do think that when you look at it and you rank some of the candidates, he's got to be right near the top because he's a guy that I think has the ability to score from so many levels on the floor. I think it's really all about that 3-point shooting, man. Can he find that touch that he had early on last season? I believe he can, and I really think it's going to pay off in a big year for him at Carolina.
And, man, so good. I know we need to keep moving here, but so good to just hear him talk about his experiences at Carolina, how much this place means to him and his family, and like not just now, not just in the past, but man, that's legacy, that's future. And I think Seth Trimble's one of those guys that when we look back, we're going to be like, he was one of the good ones, man. I just love him. And I think Pags, what we should say here is one of those moments where remember every moment of this year for him, because it's going to be gone before you realize what had happened. So folks, cherish it. I try to say that as often as we can, to cherish these moments, but should be a fun senior year for Seth Trimble. Pags, we got to turn our attention to football. Carolina UCF is the last non-con opportunity for the Tar Heels before the rest of the season is nothing but ACC games. What do we need to see from the Tar Heels? I'm going to ask Pags about that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Mazda. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. The Ramones that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and keep moving the game forward. And so this week's Moving the Game Forward moment, Carolina's defense that continues to take strides. They have not allowed a touchdown. And I know it's Charlotte and I know it's Richmond, but they have not allowed a touchdown in 2 straight games. And if they can continue doing that, that's going to be Carolina's ability to make more wins and move the needle forward in the Bill Belichick era. So definitely, this is my moving the game forward moment for this week. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected, man, it's only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Wayfair. The weather's cooling down, the days are getting shorter, and that has me wanting to make my home feel even cozier this fall. And when it comes to cozifying my space, Wayfair is the place to go. Wayfair has everything you need to set the mood for the season. Whether it's a comfy recliner, maybe warm bedding, some autumn decor, or even an espresso machine so you can make your favorite latte at home. One of my favorite things for the fall and winter is a good blanket. Laugh all you want, man, but there's nothing better than the comfort of that for me. And so I've been looking around at Wayfair for just the perfect thing. I think it's going to really help my house feel like fall. Wayfair's delivery, man, it's fast, it's free, it's hassle-free, and that makes a huge difference when you're trying to refresh your home, especially because life is so busy. Cozify your space with Wayfair's curated collection of easy, affordable fall updates. From comfy recliners to cozy bedding and autumn decor, you'll find it all for way less at Wayfair.com. That's Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Pagnotta, upcoming Saturday is the 4th game of the Bill Belichick era. And so here's what I want to ask you. I know you've been processing, you've been thinking, you've been seeing what's coming, what's going, all of that. What I want to ask you is, what are 3 things specifically that you're looking for Carolina to do in this last non-conference game to prepare for ACC play? Here's another way to ask it, to maybe reframe it a little differently. Regardless of the scoreboard result, win or lose, what needs to happen to define Saturday and moving forward as a win?
Well, I think it starts with your quarterback. You got to figure out if you've got the guy or you don't, and whether or not you need to turn to Max Johnson because he can run this offense a little more efficiently. I think with Gio Lopez, what we've seen so far in the first 3 games of the season is we've seen small flashes from him, but they feel few and far between. We need that to become more consistent. This offensive system that Carolina's running is not going to be a system that's going to run 80 plays a game, that's going to put up 50 points. That's just not how it's going to work. But it's based off of shortening the game, giving your defense rest, and the most important thing is being efficient. And that's what Carolina needs to have offensively. They need to be able to move the ball efficiently in this game, and that starts with their quarterback. So I need to see him be much better than he's been in these past 3 games so far because, you saw it. The best game that we've seen from him is Charlotte. Yeah. And with the Charlotte game, you still saw a lot of short passes. He still wasn't throwing with a lot of anticipation. The thing that Bill Belichick talked about was timing. That timing needs to be there for him, starting with this game, because this is a huge game. I cannot stress this enough. This game will probably determine whether or not you make a bowl game, because there are some teams in the ACC that are a lot better than we thought they were going to be. Cal and Virginia are the 2 that I look at right now. So to me, this is a key game. You need to figure out, is Gio Lopez the guy or is he not? And, it could help if he gets a little bit of help down there in the trenches. That's the other area I'm definitely going to be watching.
So, Pags, let me follow on that, on the quarterback thing. What do you need to see from Gio to tell you he's the guy? Like, if his performance on Saturday is on par with what he's done thus far, does that in your mind necessitate a switch to Max Johnson ahead of Clemson, or am I being too impatient with that kind of question?
No, I don't think you are at all, because again, this is about this year. This is about winning this year. And if you are trying to win this year, you need someone that knows how to run your offense and can do it efficiently. I don't think you've got that guy right now in Gio Lopez based off of what we've seen so far. Doesn't mean that Gio can't eventually be that guy. He could be that guy later this year. He could be that guy next year, because you've got him through at least 2 years based off of the NIL deal that you signed with him. So that's the thing that I think is important to remember, is if they turn away from him, it's not because he is not capable of eventually figuring this out, but they've shown us they are not going to adjust what they do offensively. They have a system. They want you to be able to run it. It's up to Gio Lopez to learn that. So all I need to see is I need to see a more accurate passer. I need to see, those routes that are open. I need to see you hitting them. And I need it to not be those plays where Jordan Shipp has to go up and make a play in the air to come down with it and then find a way to get into the end zone. No, I need you to put it on the numbers to him, lead your receiver a little bit, and be able to pick up those crucial yards. And I want to see a guy that you can trust on third down and medium, third down and long, to be able to move the sticks. Because I don't feel like you've got that guy right now based off of what we've seen so far. And you need to be able to do that as a quarterback at this level. So that's kind of what I need to see from Gio on Saturday, man.
And it's funny because obviously this is not last year, but 2 years ago, it's almost like Drake May would purposefully mess up first and second down so he could thrive in third. And it's like the antithesis of that we're experiencing now. Pags, you mentioned that running game. In your mind, like, did you see everything you needed to see from Juju June last week? Like, we saw glimpses against Charlotte, right? And it was like, oh, hey, we might have something here. He starts last week, 14 rushes for 148 yards and a touchdown. So in your mind, has Demond June locked up RB1, or is it like, well, okay, hang on, that was Richmond, we need to see more first? How are you processing that running back room right now?
So coming into this game, he's locked up RB1, but it's always possible, because he's a freshman, that you could get to a point in the season where he starts to struggle. We saw it a little bit with Demarion when he was a redshirt freshman, where he was carrying the football, or I think it might have been his true freshman year, now that I'm remembering it correctly. Either way, he started out pretty hot, and we felt like, oh, we got something here. And then as the season started going along, you said, okay, we got to start to mix some other guys in here, because he's starting to have some of those freshman struggles. He's disappeared in a couple of games. That could be what you see with Demond June. Really, it comes down to his offensive line being better run blocking wise, because look, he broke out in a couple of moments against Charlotte and Richmond where he breaks off these big plays. That's possible. He can occasionally have those big plays, but against teams that are power 4 level competition, you're going to face much better run defenses than you faced in the last 2 teams that you played. So, I mean, look, this is not a great run defense for Central Florida. This is the one area of this defense that you can attack this year. They're allowing 162 yards rushing per game in the first 2 games of the season. So this is an area that Carolina's got to be aggressive in. I want to see them run the football a pretty decent amount of times with Demond June in this game. Really settle your quarterback into the game by running the football, getting some of those short passes to sort of establish the running game if you can't necessarily do it with June. I think that's going to be important for Carolina early in this game.
Pags, let's flip to the other side of the ball really quick before we move along. I mentioned it in our Mazda ad read there, but man, the defense has not allowed a touchdown in 2 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we recognize Charlotte and we recognize Richmond, and we recognize that both those teams had opportunities to put the ball in the end zone and just weren't able to do it. So that said, are you feeling like where I sit, it feels like we're really about to learn something about where this defense is actually at, because I don't think they're as bad as what we saw versus TCU. I also don't think we don't allow touchdowns ever that we saw versus Charlotte and Richmond. Do you feel like this week is really telling of where the defense actually is?
100%, man. It's this week for just about every element of the game is going to tell you where it's a measuring stick. It tells you where this team is at, because this is a Central Florida team that has some areas where they're really good, But for the most part, I mean, this is a bottom. This was a team that I believe was picked to finish last in the Big 12. You should handle this team. You should find a way to win this game. But this is the second time that you're going up against a Power 4 school. So did you learn from the mistakes that you made against TCU? I think defensively, you asked two things. Did you learn run defense-wise what you needed to learn, which is gap integrity and tackling? And when it comes to the secondary, did you figure out how you have to play on the outside, how Marcus Allen can be successful on the outside, how Caleb Cost can be successful in the slot, and are you going to tackle better there as well whenever guys do get the football in their hands? I think that's the important thing in this game is you've got to be able to make sure that you don't repeat that same performance against TCU. And there are some dangerous elements of this Central Florida team. They are explosive in the run game, which is something that you don't usually see a lot. We talk about a lot of explosive plays. I mean, we've seen explosive running backs before, but usually those are guys that are still putting up consistent yards. These are guys where literally when they touch the football, it is big-time plays coming in the run game. And then, in the passing game, hasn't necessarily been big-time plays, but they've made enough plays with Taven Jackson, a guy who's solid, but probably isn't going to win you the game. To me, I talked about it. One of the keys to the game that we had was stop the run in this game. I think this run defense, we're going to learn a lot about them. They need to step up in this game. It's up to that defensive line to win up front. I mean, I shouted out a couple of guys that have been playing well. I think Leroy Jackson has been much better from game 1 to game 3. Isaiah Johnson's been really good. And then how about the guy that was basically a walk-on that's graded out as the highest graded defensive tackle for Carolina so far this year in Xavier Lewis, who is just playing his tail off. So he deserves a lot of credit. They need to do their job so that you can help these linebackers out, because I think these linebackers are special. I really like this group, and I think they're going to show up in this game. That's one of the big keys for Carolina, and I think it's an area they're going to be able to take care of against Central Florida.
Speaking of which, I haven't seen anything about Andrew Simpson's status yet. Have you seen anything, Pegs?
I have not. I know that the group chat that we are in was freaking out about a possible injury to him. I have not heard anything, so I don't know how banged up he was. Maybe he just went into the locker room early because he was cramping. Could have been an equipment issue, something along those lines. So, I mean, I haven't heard anything. I think what we got to do is, we're not to the point yet. Luckily, once we get past this game, then we start getting injury reports, because we get into conference play. You got to reveal all your injuries. The ACC is one of those conferences that is signed on for that. So we'll have much better understanding as to what the heck is wrong with Price Yates, what's going on with Christo Kelly, when is he coming back, and also, some of these little nicks and bangs that we don't necessarily hear a lot about. You'll have to report those. So a guy like Andrew Simpson, I haven't heard anything, so I'm going to say going into the game, I feel confident that he's probably going to be a go for Carolina. And even if not,
Bayer.
You got Messiah Bayer, who is the ACC linebacker of the week. He just slides in there with Kamori House. I think you'll be all right. So
that's right. At worst, you're building depth with Bayer for the rest of the season, and definitely take that. Also, I feel like on that injury report terms, I feel like here's Chris Culver last week. He's like, "Oh, you're playing. You're good. Okay, there we go." Right. And so we'll hopefully get some news on that. Cuts and nicks and bruises as well. All right. 3 games in, we have something of an idea of what Carolina is and is not. What's been the most surprising? What's been the biggest letdown? We'll get to that, our predictions for the game, and the weekend whip around, all coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Square, you need to know that your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home. Whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. What does supporting a community look like? It's spending money. And doing that doesn't just support the businesses, it supports the people behind the businesses and the community around it. Those local spots are what makes the neighborhood feel like home, and so many of them run on Square, like Hawthorne and Wood, for example. Or how about the Shake Shack? I know that's not local, but the Shake Shack right off of Franklin Street. Man, these all use Square. It's great stuff. So Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/locked-on-college to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. This episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. Y'all, it's the weekend and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. This player delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. We talked about him already for Carolina last week. It has to be Juju June, who delivered in a big way. In his first career start, he rushed 14 times for 148 yards and a touchdown and added a catch to it. When the pressure was on, this true freshman came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, you saw this building and coming. Maybe June is going to be on a streak. And just like he delivered for the Heels, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you could save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season to save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep that streak alive, fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply, and this promo code runs all the way through November 18th. All right, Pagnotta, obviously we bring a lot of unknown into every college football season. This one a lot more than usual because Belichick, because 70 new, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every year, though, we make predictions and thoughts about what units will be what. In your mind, what unit for Carolina has been better than advertised or that you thought they would be?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I would say probably the linebackers. We talked about them. I think Andrew Simpson, I had high expectations for him, but I didn't know. I was still hesitant to say that he was going to be on the same level as Amari Campbell because he was a guy that coming over from Boise State, had a little bit of a quiet season last year, only 46 total tackles. It was much quieter than the year before. He's looked a lot more like the guy that he was in his sophomore year. And I think that certainly has helped this unit out a lot. I think Kamori House has been great. He wasn't a full-time starter last year at Washington. So I question, would he be a full-time starter this year? Would you have to use Mekhi Bayer a little bit more? Well, I mean, you've used Mekhi Bayer a little bit, but hey, Kamori House has stepped up, helps to lead the team in total tackles so far this year. And then you've got Bayer, who came in this past week, and what is he doing? Not only is he rallying to the football, making tackles, he's creating turnovers at the same time. So I think that linebacking core has looked really good. And shout out to a guy who I thought played really well last week as well, Jonathan Agamadu. Probably not going to see him a lot this, coming up here over these next couple of weeks, but he had 6 total tackles in that game. So he was a guy that when he got into the game, he was a guy that was, swarming to the football, making those plays. I think there's some really good depth in this linebacker room.
That's a good word. So that's happy, Pags, but let's get sad a little bit. What's maybe a unit or a group that's not been, at least to this point, up to what you expected them to be?
Oh, man, this is tough because you could go with the quarterbacks, or I think the other one, I think quarterback, we've talked about that already. So why don't I go with the edge rushers? Now, here's the thing. I do think that the problem is that you don't have Price Yates. If you had Price Yates, I feel like this
is a different conversation.
Completely different. But I think one thing that you can say is that Milcard Abujade is working hard, and I think he's getting there. I need more from Smith Vilbert. Desperately. I need more from you. You are 6'6", 282 pounds. You have not lived up to the expectations just yet. And right now, they got to the quarterback in the last game, but it was back-to-back plays, and that was it. I need more sacks from this group. I need more tackles for loss, more havoc plays. Team you're playing on Saturday, they're averaging 10 tackles for a loss per game. This is a team that just doesn't have that same ability just yet, and I'm looking for that. So maybe it's the entire defensive line, but I feel like I talked about earlier, you're seeing some good things from the interior guys in terms of how they're playing the run. I just need more from a pass rushing perspective from the guys on the edge, particularly from Smith Vilbert.
That's a good word. Let's go to our predictions for this game. UNC is a 6.5-point dog down in Orlando, and the over-under actually dropped a point today from 47.5 down to 46.5. So we're looking at a Expected low-scoring game, not surprised. Both teams trying to struggle to figure out their offensive identity, probably some run control type action going on. Pags, as you look at this, how do you see it playing out?
I see exactly what Vegas sees. I see it being a low-scoring game. I think that Carolina is going to want to lean on their defense in this one. I hope that they're going to be much better than they were in that game against TCU. I think they will be. I think they learned a lot of lessons from that game. The one thing that I think is different about this team that will translate is the tackling more than anything. Even they've done a much better job with their gap discipline and everything like that. But the tackling, I think, is the one thing that's going to travel, that's going to be a little bit different than it was in the season opener. I think that really stands out in this game. And offensively, I think they make enough plays to get it done. I think they run the football pretty well in this game when they have to. Maybe hit a couple of explosive plays, maybe one in the passing game, to a couple in the running game. And I think Carolina finds a way to get out with a win. But I'm going 21-17 Carolina over Central Florida. I think it's going to be an ugly game, but Carolina gets it done.
Gosh, I hope you're right. I made a not favorable Carolina prediction on our crossover. I'm going to have to stick with that so that I'm a man of consistency. But I went UCF 27-24, so a little bit higher than you, Pags. But I pray that you are right and that I am dead wrong, and I can sit here and eat all sorts of crow for that. I don't like to pick against the Tar Heels, but I'm going to. I apologize to the world. Okay, weekend whip around, Project 28 weekend whip around. Here's what's going on. Women's soccer, they are 7-3, 1-1 in ACC play. Unfortunately, lost earlier this week to Florida State at home, 1-0. Man, those Noles are always so good. Carolina is 18th in the nation right now. That was pre the Florida State loss. And they don't play again until next Wednesday up at Notre Dame. Men's soccer is 4-1-2. They beat Memphis 3-0 out of conference on Tuesday. And then they get going back in ACC play Saturday, tomorrow against SMU, 7 p.m. That'll be on ACC Network Extra. Field hockey, man. The ladies just keep doing it, Pags. They're 6-0. They're number 2 in the nation behind Northwestern. There are 3 other AC schools in the top 7. So 4 ACC schools in the top 7. The California schools are coming into town this weekend to kick off ACC play. So hosting Cal Friday night at 6 on ACC Network Extra, and then hosting Stanford Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. on ACC Network Extra. That'll be good. Volleyball, they keep rolling along, 6-1 overall. Still haven't started ACC play yet. They're 25th in the nation. They beat App State 3-1 on Tuesday. They host Kansas State today, Friday, 7 p.m. on ACC Network Extra. And ECU, got to beat the Pirates Sunday, 4 p.m. on ACC Network Extra. And then the other in-season action this weekend is cross country. The Adidas Cross Country Challenge, that's today, Friday. The men run at 5:15 and the ladies at 5:55. That's in Cary. The men are 19th in the nation and the women 15th. Pags, we got teams, I think literally, okay, men's soccer's others receiving votes, football not ranked. Literally every other Carolina team is ranked in the top 25. I mean, it's incredible stuff.
That's why we love the Olympic sports here. That's why we get so into that. And that's why we really want football to work out, because we have heard that if football doesn't work out, then it's a trickle-down effect, and that could affect these other sports. Man, this is what makes Carolina special, is that when you come here, you can go to all these sporting events and you're seeing some of the best in the nation. They're competing for those Director Cups each year. And I know that's something that, Bubba Cunningham prides himself on. Steve Newkirk will eventually pride himself on. So it's really cool to see them having success. I just want to know, how in the world is field hockey not number 1? What more do these women have to do to consistently stay number 1? They just keep winning titles. Come on.
Look, until just let Northwestern eat some stuff, and then we'll get to it. It happened with lacrosse last year too. They were number 1, or Carolina was number 2 for a long time, and then they just kept killing BC, and then it was like, oh, well, maybe we should switch it. So hopefully that'll happen, and the ladies will bring home another natty. They got to get back from that Final Four loss last year. Big thanks, as always, to our homie Pagnotta, Anthony Pagnotta, at HTB Anthony on Twitter, host of the Heel Tough blog. Man, great stuff that they have going on the podcast and the blog there. Make sure to catch them for your Saturday recap of this game, because I'm going to not be able to go live tomorrow after the game. We're going to be off celebrating my wife's 40th birthday. So apologies. We're going to be hanging out watching Nate Bargatze show. And so, man, go check out Heel Tough Blog. They'll treat you right. You know they always will. Our guys, Pags and Marlo, you don't want to miss that. If you've not subscribed to our show, make sure to do it right now so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels on video and audio. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, baby, now's the time to do it. That link's in the show notes. And if you want to go deeper, Locked On Tar Heels Insider, that link is in the show notes as well. You guys know the drill. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be back with you soon, but until then, peace.